So today, what on earth have I done with my notes? There they are. Oh dear, it's going to be one of those mornings, isn't it? Yeah. So what I'm going to do this morning is we're talking about provocations in the early years. So that's our discussion for this morning. So by the end of this short broadcast, what I'm hoping you will be able to understand is understand what a provocation is, understand what it can look like, and understand when you could use it in your practice as well. Okay, so that's what we're hoping to cover today. So, as I say, please do comment. That would be really, really great if that you could kind of comment on this. There is some bits where you can join in as well. So I'm hoping that there'll be lots of you that are interested in this one today, because it is something that interests me as well. So we're going to move on. I'm going to show you a picture of an object coming up shortly. So, have a look at that one, and we'll have a look and see what you think it might be. There you go. So whether you're watching this now or whether you're watching it later, I'm going to step back for a moment and let you have a look at it. Okay, I'm back. So, what is it? That's what I'm asking you. What is it? It's just a box, isn't it? Is it a box? This is what we've got to ask ourselves. We need to step back from being an adult for a moment. Okay, we need to step back from being an adult and examine what this is from the point of view of a child. This is what I'm trying to get across, is what we're seeing isn't necessarily what a child is seeing. We need to bear that in mind. So yes, through adult eyes, it is just a box. However, what we need to do, as I said, is remember that the child sees the world differently, and a box can be all sorts of things, such as it could be a space rocket, or a boat, or a train. Oh, yes, it could be a train. It could even be a house. Now, if you think about it, if, like in our setting, we quite often get big boxes of things. If we're ordering nappies in bulk, then we get humongous great boxes. I don't throw them out. I do not throw our boxes out, not straight away anyway. They do go into recycling and will stay there. So what we tend to do is we get these boxes in and I just put them into the garden. And I step back a little bit and let the children decide. That's what we need to bear in mind when we're doing this, because it's up to us as practitioners to work with the child to encourage their imagination and creativity as they work on their discovery. Now, they've discovered this box, but is it a box in their eyes? That's what we need to bear in mind, is it's not necessarily just a box. So we need to be sensitive to that. And this is where sustained shared thinking comes in. And we talked about that before. If you were listening to my Facebook Live, I think, was it last week? I talked about curiosity and how it's essential to development in a child. And I've been working on a whole method of embracing and using curiosity in our setting. And it's become quite a passion of mine, like harnessing curiosity and using sustained shared thinking, using the third teacher, and using characteristics of effective learning, bringing these building blocks together to create that firm foundation. And provocations form a part of that. And this is what I'm trying to get across. So we need to kind of step back for a moment and watch the children and listen. We really need to listen. And that's when we can come in and scaffold. Now, there is a really, really useful book available if anyone wants to get it. It's by Laura England, who's better known to most people as Little Miss Early Years. She's got an amazing book available. It came out, I'm pretty sure it was last year. Let me just double check. It was last year, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. And I got it, like I pre-ordered it because I knew it was going to be good. I mean, I followed Little Miss Early Years for a long while. And the stuff that Laura comes out with is amazing. And she does talk a lot about provocations and curiosity and a lot of that. So I follow her quite a bit. So the book is Looking for Learning Provocations. If you look on my blog site, themalepractioner.com. I have got a book review of that. What I'll do later today, I'll go back through that and I'll find where it is, and I'll put a link into Amazon so that you can go and get it. Other book selling sites are available, but I always tend to use Amazon just because it's here the next day. So what I'm going to do is, this is actually taken straight from Laura's book. So what is a provocation? Well, according to what Laura says in her book, the word provocation explains exactly what it is. It is something that provokes, and in this case, we're looking at how to provoke thinking. Children are curious about the world from the minute they're born. Their brains are wired up to try and make sense of the things around them, and they're continually thinking, testing their thoughts and ideas, and thinking further and testing again. That's brilliant. That is exactly what provocation should do. It provokes thinking. It provokes learning. So that's where we come in, is to listen to those ideas. There is an amazing YouTube video of not so much provocations, but the bit where we need to come in with the sustained shared thinking. There is an amazing video, and what I'll do is I'm going to try and find the link to that and put it on the blog page and on the Facebook page as well. So I'll find that link later today and pop that one on for you, because it is a brilliant video, and I've watched it for a couple of different courses. The last time I watched it, I think it was to do with my physical activity and nutrition coordinators course, and it did fit in with that as well, because it talks about how we listen to children and how we're not pushing our ideas onto them, but we're listening to their ideas and following that and just steering slightly to help their thinking. Okay, that we're kind of thinking, not thinking for them, because that's not what we're there to do. What we're trying to do is guide their thinking into the right direction so that they get the answers that they need. Okay, they're coming up with their own ideas and their theories and everything else, and they're testing those theories, and that's brilliant. And this is what provocation should be doing, is testing those theories. So where did they come from? Ooh, hello, there we go. So they kind of came from the kind of three main theorists was Jerome Bruner, Lev Vygotsky, and Jean Piaget. So I've kind of, like, you know, I've borrowed a bit from Laura's book as well. So Bruner, he coined the term scaffolding, which is now a key component in our practice, in best practices, when we're scaffolding the learning. That is, we're building, we're helping and supporting. So if you think about, if you think perfectly about scaffolding and what it is when you in terms of a building site, it's there to kind of provide that support on the outside, isn't it? So it kind of provides that support as you're building up and up and up and up, isn't it? It's to make sure that you can reach and you can help. So we're there to support that building as it's going up. That building is the child's knowledge and learning, and we're just there at the side supporting and guiding. And that's us as the scaffolding. So he was interested in the use of language as a scaffold. So that's where sustained shared thinking comes in. We're asking the right questions, but we're not telling them the answers. We're guiding them. We're saying, oh, right, tell me a bit more about that. What does that do? Oh, how do you know it does that? So, for example, it could be that your provocation could be a clock. Okay, for the provocation I gave you at the start of this, it was a box, okay, and that was fine. I gave you a box to look at, but it could be anything. So, for example, it could be a clock. So you're asking the children, oh, what does that do? So you could be talking about the second hand as it moves around. Oh, and how does it do that? Oh, right. So there's a motor inside. Because they've had that chance to discover without being told, oh, don't touch that. You can't touch that. You can't. Let them touch it. Let them pull it apart if they need to. This is what I mean. There's charity shops out there with old clocks that you can get, or even parents have got old clocks. I'm pretty sure I've got one lurking around my house somewhere. Let them pull it apart, because if you don't pull it apart, how do you know? If you think about all the greatest inventions that have ever been done in the whole wide world, people have pulled things apart to invent things. It's part of it. And this is where we should be allowing it. We shouldn't be afraid to let them pull something apart. If we know that they're going to do it and we know that they're going to pull it apart, let them. Find something that you don't mind getting completely and utterly destroyed, because that's how they're going to discover. That's how they're going to learn. So if we think back as well with Jerome Bruner, the Effective Provision of Preschool Education Project found that sustained shared thinking, which is kind of where this scaffolding language is coming from Jerome Bruner, it was one of the key aspects of effective pedagogy, and they defined it as when two or more individuals work together in an intellectual way to solve a problem, clarify a concept, evaluate an activity, and extend a narrative. This is what we're doing with provocations. Okay, so like I say, let's go back to my clock, that the example that I gave you, that you can let them pull it apart. And this is where we're going, oh, what does this bit do? Oh, does it connect there? Oh, how do you know that? And it's about that careful questioning and about understanding that sustained shared thinking is very, very much key to using provocation. It's very, very much key to children's curiosity, because curiosity can fly off like an out of control firework. And for us, that if you think about a Catherine wheel, if it comes flying off its post, right, it's not being secured properly. And we are the nail that secures that Catherine wheel to the post, because we're there asking the relevant questions to allow that Catherine wheel to spin round and round and round and round and round, but not fly off out of control. It gives us this beautiful display of what it's supposed to do, and we're there to guide those children with the right questioning. So if I move on to Vygotsky, now he supported the idea of scaffolding and sustained shared thinking, same as Jerome Bruner. Through his research, he believed children learn in three ways. So the imitative learning, so copying or imitating another, which children do. I mean, I've heard a lot about our children where they go and imitate us at home. So we've got children who sit down and do register, and they do our colour of the week, shape of the week, and all this kind of stuff. Or they'll sit down and they'll pretend to be a member of the team because that's what they want to do. They want to imitate us. And, we're obviously fascinating to them. They're curious about our role and what we actually do. So that's where the imitation comes from. So then the second one was instructed learning, so following instructions from another. Now, this could be something simple like washing hands. It's a big topic at the moment, washing hands. So yeah, the children were learning about washing our hands and using a song. So they were singing Happy Birthday, or they were singing Baby Shark, or whatever else it was. And then the third one is collaborative learning. Well, this is where provocations come in and the sustained shared thinking definitely come in. So, I mean, there's those ones working collaboratively with peers, or indeed with adults as well. So we're not the adult, we are a peer. And that's what we need to kind of get into the back of our mind, is we're not there as an adult, we're there as a peer to promote and share their thinking with them and go, oh, right, okay. So we're kind of there for that one. But Vygotsky was also the one that came up with the zone of proximal development, which is the gap between what a child can do with the knowledge they have right there and then what they could do with scaffolding. So with that sustained shared thinking again, from a more knowledgeable other person, so an adult or an older child. It could easily be that as well. But then it's what they could do. It's how they could go further. So he kind of put it as like this blob in a corner. So if you think about it, it could be like a house in the corner of a field, okay, with a fence around it, okay? And then there's all that huge amount of field. Well, that's the zone of proximal development. So the house is where you are right now, but you want to get right the way across to the other side of the field. So with that scaffolding, with that support from another knowledgeable person, you can then spread right across the field, and that's where you're increasing your knowledge, where you're beginning to understand how things work. So that's where careful commenting and questioning comes in, an extension of resources. So understanding that, going back to our clock, so the understanding that the clock needs a battery to work, or it needs wound up. So it's about building that knowledge so that you close up that gap between what they know and what they have discovered further, okay? So we're going to move on to Piaget. And Piaget saw the role of the teacher as the facilitator rather than to directly teach. Now, in early years, that's super important that we are seen as facilitators. I try and see myself as that, as the deputy manager. I try and see myself as a facilitator rather with my team. Is I want them to encourage that learning with the children, and I will try and facilitate as best I can within budget and everything else, and with health and safety in mind and all that kind of stuff that you kind of have to think of as a deputy manager. Hello. Got weird noises coming up. So that's kind of where we go with that one. So a facilitator, not directly teaching. So we're not sitting down a group of 2-year-olds and going, right, boys and girls, we are going to learn the alphabet from A to Z. No, we're not. We're going to do it through other things. We'll facilitate this. Oh, let's have a look at the letter A, but we'll look at it through fun things. So, oh, look, an apple. Yay. Provocations can be, so it kind of like ties in directly with the use of provocations when you're a facilitator. So, like I said, right at the very start of this Facebook Live, I showed you a picture of a box. That was me facilitating a provocation. Okay. I gave you that box. What was that box? What could it be used for? What was it used for? What used to be in it? Where did it come from? Where do boxes come from? Oh my goodness. So many questions that you could do. But it's about not, again, like we said with the children, when they're curious, they kind of go off like an out of control firework. You need to bear that in mind for yourself as well as the facilitator, not going flying off with about 1,000 questions about different things. Follow that interest and go, oh, right. So the child is curious about where this box came from. Oh, wonder where it could have come from, and talk about their ideas, not your ideas, but their ideas. Yeah, you know, a box is made from paper, mashed together and all this, and it can be recycled. Paper comes from trees and blah, blah, blah. That's fine. You know that. They don't. Okay, but it's not up to you to directly tell them and sit them down and go, well, this is what happens. They cut down the trees and they mash them up and they mix them with water and lots of other things and blah, and they make paper. And then this paper is mixed together with glue and lots of other different processes. And here's your cardboard box. Boring. Okay, it's about us going, oh, well, let's think about it. Where could it come from? And finding that information. And if the child is interested in going to find out a bit more, then you could look it up. Or you could even mix it up. Or, you know, if you're feeling really creative, you can even have a go at it yourself. Piaget believed that a child's understanding of the world how the world works is developed through repeated reorganization of mental structures. So we constantly talk about kind of neurological development in children, and that there's so many synapses and things, and it's all kind of fizzing in there like an Alka-Seltzer when you've had a hangover. But it's kind of like everything's connecting together, and this is what it means. And sometimes those synapses will move and go, actually, well, do you know what? Actually, it's better fixed to that one. It's like, you could also think about it like building a road, but you don't know where you're going yet. And all of a sudden you've got to make a left turn because that is the right turn that you need, because otherwise you're going to go bang straight into a tree. You know, so you've got to turn left, and then, oh, wait a minute, I need to turn right. And this is what it's like. And this is what Piaget believed, that they need to reorganize what they're thinking about, and they're all doing that. Piaget still has an impact on today's practice, including how we value the process of collaborative learning. So that's not where we're talking about kind of learning through direct teaching. Yes, you can learn through direct teaching, but also it's important to remember that collaborative learning is super important as well. So hopefully you're all still there and you're still listening. If you want to post any comments, please feel free to do that. Excuse me just 1 second. I'm going to have a drink of coffee. That's better. But if you want to post any comments or questions, please do that. I can see the comments and questions on this. I'm trying a different approach today. So I am actually still here live. This isn't recorded. So if there's anything else you want to know, please do post it on there. That'd be marvelous. So why use provocations? That's kind of where we're looking at next. And they could be used to stimulate an interest for deeper learning of a subject. So, for example, if children are interested in how things work, so, you know, it could be just as basic as a toy that you can pull apart. Again, this is where charity shops and these kind of junk type shops, I mean, there's one near us that I got taken to, and my word, I could have spent the whole day there. It was just marvelous. There was all kinds of stuff in there. But it's brilliant because this is what we want to do. If children want to or need to pull it apart, not needlessly, but they want to pull it apart to see how it works, great, let them do it. So, that's one of the things. So it can be used to stimulate an interest. It can be used to enhance and develop schemas. So a lot of children have schemas. That's a whole other subject. And to be honest, it's not a subject I'm really brilliant at. I do know schemas and I know what they're about. But I'll leave that to other people that are much better at this. Little Miss Early Years, Laura England, is so good at schemas as well. She knows her stuff with that one. So can be used to allow the child to lead their learning. So that's fine. A child, it could be that you struggle with a child that you don't know what they're interested in, and all of a sudden you just put something out on the side and they're like, and you just watch them looking at it And this is where you could step in and go, oh, what is it? And that could be just that one question, that one item that stimulates interest. And that's brilliant. Let them do it. Can be used to harness creativity. So again, we're going back to my cardboard box, aren't I? To us, it's a cardboard box. It's what my nappies arrived in at nursery. They're huge boxes. What am I going to do with them? The children. I'm not just throwing the children because I can't be bothered getting rid of them. At the end of the day, I still have to go and put them in the recycling. But for me, I know, and a lot of my team know, that a cardboard box is really, really important to a child because it can be so much more than a cardboard box. This is the thing. It's so much more. So this is where their creativity can be harnessed by just throwing out a cardboard box to them. And again, that can promote higher levels of engagement. Because if the children are curious, their curiosity is going to hold them for quite some amount of time. And this is what we want. We want to harness that curiosity and that creativity and that kind of stimulus that they've got, because they're learning and they're learning deeper. And that's brilliant. So the next thing is, what could a provocation be? Well, we've already kind of gone over a couple of things. So I've said it could be just as simple as a cardboard box, or it could be a clock, or it could be a particular toy or something like that. Anything could be a provocation. There's one that I've done not that long ago, and it was, I got loads of beans and pulses and lentils and all kinds of stuff like that. And what I did was I just put them in little tubs on a tough tray, and I printed and laminated. Oh, I know, printing and laminating, shock horror. I printed and laminated pictures of Van Gogh's sunflowers, and I actually put real sunflowers on, and that was a provocation. And it was a case of, we're talking about sunflowers and the colors, and we pulled the sunflowers apart. That's fine. That's what they're there for. I want them to kind of feel it, smell it, touch it, not taste it, because that would just be too wrong. And then building up pictures. So it was kind of a bit of transient art, but a provocation at the same time. So it could be objects such as natural items, toys, household items. Photos. Photos are a brilliant one as well. Books. Even a book can be a provocation. It could be an old book. Now, I've got quite a few old books lurking around. It's more actually at my dad's house, which would be brilliant if I could always nab them back. But yeah, even a book could promote curiosity and provocation. A box or material. Things like beautiful sari materials. That's the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of material, because there's so many divine, gorgeous patterns and colors. I'm provoked into finding out more and just touching and what could it do, and it's just exciting. And that's what we want, the excitement. So, there's so many different items that you could have. So I'm going to put up another picture. Again, this is taken from Laura England's book. I hope you don't mind, Laura. I'm sure you won't. But I've kind of borrowed a picture from her book. Now, what she's done here, she's got a pile of different leaves. This is an autumn picture, obviously, because of the colour of the leaves. She's put a pile of leaves in the middle of the table, and she's put these colour paint tester cards all around the table. What do you think it could be? Okay. It's as simple as that. What do you think it could be? If you've got some ideas, please feel free to post them on. I don't mind. But I'm going to give you a moment to think about it whilst I have a drink of coffee again. Oops, nearly spilled coffee on the laptop. It's not a good idea. So, for me, this provocation, it could be looking at the colours of the autumn leaves. So you've got colour matching going on with the outer circle of those paint tester charts. So that could be what it provokes for me. But equally, it could be looking at the pattern. If you look at the bottom part of the inner circle where the leaves are, there's a beautiful, beautiful leaf there, which has got so gorgeous patterns, and that could provoke me. Equally, it could be looking at the shapes of those leaves. Do they match? Are they big? Are they small? So much that children could get just from that table, but it doesn't necessarily be what you're imagining the provocation could be. And that's important to bear in mind as well, that what you're thinking it might provoke isn't necessarily what's going to go on in that child's mind, because they could come in You know what they're like. They can come in one day in a completely different mood to what they were the day before. So if they come in with something different in their head, they've either seen something or been told something or heard something or whatever it was, then they've got this idea in their head, and actually this kind of pile of leaves fits in with their idea, and they're like, oh, wow, what else could we do that? And it's brilliant. And listen to the sound of them. They make a crunchy sound. This one doesn't, because it's still quite wet. It's still got moisture in it. The other ones are all dried out, and they make this crispy, crunchy sound, or it could be looking at the patterns of the veins on the leaves. Whatever. That's what I'm talking about. It could be anything. You could put one idea down on the table, but it's up to the children to actually take it and be provoked in a different way. Okay. So, for example, another way of looking at provocation is thinking about it from the perspective of an adult. Okay. You've got somebody that keeps coming up and is yelling at you and poking you in the ribs and going, no, 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 no. Now, you could either go a couple of ways. You could either stand there and yell back at them. You could either thump on one, or you could walk away. There's 3 different provocations coming from being poked in the ribs and shouted at by somebody. There you go. So think about it that way. When could you use provocations? Well, if you're wanting to do, you could use them to start a topic with the children. So again, bear in mind, though, going back to our previous picture, it might not necessarily be what they're interested in there and then. It could be that the provocation you've beautifully set up goes a completely different direction to what you intended. Fine, deal with it. That's what we've got to do. Remember, we're building that ongoing road, that learning journey, and we've got to change the direction of that road whenever we can. It could be to explore schemas. So you're pretty sure a child is developing a schema and you want to kind of go with that and run with that. That's fine. Go with it. Use a provocation for that. So it could be that they're transporting. So it could be that you set up an entire table full of all different types of bags for moving things around. Oh my word, how exciting is that? How much could they fit into this bag or this bag or this bag? Oh, it's exciting. So it could be to encourage questioning with children. Again, going back to our sustained shared thinking, don't put the questions in the head for the answer that you want. Listen to the answer that they're giving. Okay? That's important to remember. To encourage the development of language. Now, everything that we can do can encourage language development. We've got to remember that. So even provocations could be developing language. So it might be, going back to our clock, they've never heard of a cog. Okay, a cog could be a completely new word for them. Brilliant. There you go. There's a bonus out of that one. To support wider thinking for the children. Okay, brilliant. Again, going back to our box, it could be that it's a space rocket. Okay, but where do space rockets take off to? Where do they go? Oh, what are the names of the planets? You can broaden that, and it's up to us to kind of go, all right, what could we do? But listening carefully to what the children are saying. Okay. To harness the children's natural curiosity. Of course, they're going to be curious. That's why we're using provocations. They are an ideal opportunity to provoke some questioning, some learning, some thinking, and starting off on a journey of learning about whatever it is that they've decided it's going to be. So it could be a clock. For them, it could be Big Ben. It could be that we got this from London, or it could be that it's a time machine. It could be anything, and we've got to go with that. So remember, if you've got any questions, then I would dearly love to hear them. You can post messages to me here on Facebook. I would absolutely love to hear that. Or likewise, you can email me. It's hello@themalepractitioner.com. Absolutely. Email me that way. Or visit me on the website as well, themalepractitioner.com. I am also on Instagram and Twitter. They're both at TMP Early Years for Instagram and Twitter, at TMP Early Years. So I would love to hear from you. But any questions, I hope you found this one useful. If you've got any suggestions for future Facebook Lives, then please do get in touch with me. I would love to hear from you. But thank you very much for your time today, and enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe, everybody, and speak very, very soon.